Hello, my name is Nari and I'm an A-level sociology specialist. My online sociology school is called Sociology VideoScribe, and I'd like you to watch 5 short presentations. These presentations are about my programs, my method of teaching, and the essay writing skills you'll need to achieve a grade B and above in your final sociology examinations. Whether you're new to this subject or not, you'll find sociology asks you to question everyday assumptions about life, who you are, and the society you live in. For example, who controls your life? You or society? Whose reflection do you see in the mirror? Yourself or what you imagine others think of you as? How come some charities make a profit? Is deviance normal? And if so, what's abnormal? How come shaming an individual in a group strengthens the bond between other members of that group? I could go on till the cows come home, but you can see the subject is full of paradoxes, connections, and interrelationships. It may change your thinking as it did mine, with its isms, concepts and ideas, and changes what education is all about. It's also one of the few subjects that needs you to think experientially. In other words, it needs you to observe and reflect on your experience of others and society, and I, as your sociology tutor, will encourage you to make sense of the world sociologically. For instance, are there hidden reasons for students choosing to sit next to each other in your class or lecture? What's the seating plan for your classroom? Is it a horseshoe, islands or lines? And how do you think this affects class relationships and lesson structure? What's your teacher's style? Are they the traditional sage on the stage or a guide on the side? Irrespective of seating plans and teaching styles, sociology is academic and bookish because it's reliant on texts and the written word. So, I thought I'd create an audio-visual program like the one you're seeing now to make my subject more accessible and interesting, and more importantly, memorable. I've always found pictures an effective way of remembering. It's as if my mind materializes the story before my eyes. It's the same with sociology. It's a story, a narrative that uses theory, concepts, evidence and research methods to unravel society. But because it's complex and abstract, it needs to be anchored and applied to real events in society. For example, Charles Cooley, an American sociologist, claimed, "I am not what I think I am, and I am not what you think I am. I am what I think you think I am." To apply this, we could use Instagram and Twitter as an example, and how the number of followers and hits creates and reinforces a self-fulfilling prophecy where, as Cooley suggests, I am what I think you think I am. More the hits and followers, more the way you see yourself, the way others see you. At the other end of the sociological spectrum, we have Karl Marx, and his ideas are outward-looking and not inward like Cooley's looking-glass self. I'll read you one of Marx's seminal statements. The ideas of the ruling class are in every epoch the ruling ideas, i.e. the class which is the ruling material force of society is at the same time its ruling intellectual force. You probably think this as gobbledygook, a bit like looking at a clock not knowing how to tell the time. If I add discuss, you may well be in deep water. However, if I add pictures so as ideas materialize, the ideas of the ruling class are in every epoch the ruling ideas, i.e. The class, which is the ruling material force of society, is at the same time its ruling intellectual force. I think it's worth fully understanding this key idea because it touches on all areas of the A-level syllabus concerning the Marxist perspective. So I'm going to expand and annotate a little bit more. For Marx, ideas and ideology are the same, and the application of an idea by a powerful group amounts to the execution of ideology. He believed that ideology is a tool used by the rich and powerful to dominate and mentally control the people, or whom he called the proletariat. So they continue to do what they are told. For example, Marx claimed religion was an ideological tool used by the rich and powerful to ease the pain of poverty and injustice suffered by the workers, caused by the intolerable and often fatal working conditions of industrial society. He thought religion as an opium of the people in easing their suffering and not, as some believe, a drug creating false consciousness or a false reality. Religion also gave hope through heaven and the life thereafter. While religion gave hope, it also prevented the poor from rising above their station and rebelling against their masters, as if God had ordained their life position and not the powerful elite of society. For example, the Hindu caste system in India ascribes social position at birth, called ascribed status, with the priest class, Brahmins, topping the list, and the ones who probably created the system, followed by the warriors, the Kshatriyas, then the business and trade class, the Vaishyas, and lastly the labourers, the Shudras. The caste system fixed these life positions, and one could only change their caste through rebirth and reincarnation. Other religions also show a similar classificatory system, though perhaps not so rigid. For example, in Christianity, the Victorian hymn, "All Things Bright and Beautiful," reminds us that God has ordered property ownership, as in the lines, "The rich man in his castle, the poor man at his gate, God made them high and lowly, and ordered their estate." While religion held people spellbound during Marx's time, it's not so now, particularly in the UK. Today, instead of God and religion, many worship shopping, sport, music, computer games, and celebrities to distract and relieve themselves from the mundane work schedules. You can see how intense Marx's ideas are. I've started with the concept of the ideas of, and haven't even touched the ruling class in every epoch bit. Let's have a look at epoch first. Marx used epochs to historically define types of ruling and dominated classes. During the Roman or master-slave epoch, it was the ruling patrician and the dominated plebeian. In the feudal, the barons and serfs. And in our present industrial capitalist epoch, elected politicians and the people. But for traditional Marxists, it's not the ruling class politicians, the executive, as they execute the ideas, that hold the power, even though they appear to do so. They're a smokescreen and an illusion. No, the ruling class merely execute and manage ideas of a higher power, the billionaires, the super-rich, or as Marx called them, the bourgeoisie. The ruling class are merely the puppets of the bourgeoisie, and as Marx stated, the executive of the modern state is but a committee for managing the common affairs of the whole bourgeoisie. Ruling class politicians execute the ideas of the bourgeois through government and the state. This global map gives you a pretty good idea of the concentration of billionaires throughout the world in 2020. And from a Marxist perspective, these are the people who really call the shots. They really rule. Take a moment or two to look at the map, as it's interesting irrespective of Marx's ideas. While the bourgeoisie may be the wielders of power in our present capitalist epoch, previous wielders were the emperors in the Roman epoch who ruled over the patricians. Julius Caesar started that ball rolling. The feudal saw the monarch as the divine ruler, ordained by God, wielding power over the barons, the enforcers. In the industrialist capitalist epoch, it's the multinational corporations, the MNCs and factories across the globe owned by the bourgeoisie, as mapped previously, whom some suggest the ruling class pander to for donations. As the saying goes, he who pays the piper calls the tune. So, ruling class ideas are really the ideas of the rich, the bourgeoisie, managed by the ruling class to rule ordinary people. But how does a minority convince a majority to believe and accept ideas that exploit the majority? This is where the IE comes in, namely, the class which is the ruling material force of society is at the same time its ruling intellectual force. For Marx, the material force of society is the economy that drives a particular epoch. The ruling material force in the master-slave Roman epoch was imperialism and the absorption of countries and slaves by its mighty army headed by the emperor. In the feudal, it was agriculture and peasant labour, ordered by God through the monarch, the divine ruler. In our present epoch, the ruling material force is capitalism. It's important to know a little bit about capitalism, as it underlies the Marxist analysis of the A-level syllabus. Capitalism works on the basis of the bourgeoisie making profits. The bourgeoisie provide wages in return for work in the production of goods and services. These goods and services, in turn, are purchased from the wages of the wage earner through their consumption in the market. This creates more demand and increased supply. So the wage earner spend their wages on goods and services they have produced, and the bourgeoisie make profit through their purchases. It's an upward spiral of increasing production and consumption of resources that extinctionists see as destroying the planet. However, the way the minority exploit the majority has changed dramatically. During the Roman and feudal epochs, the majority was subjected to cruel punishment and fundamentalist religion to accept ideas of slavery and serfdom. But capitalism could not, because the onset of the Enlightenment, science, and the rights of man placed democracy, humanity, and human rights above dictators and religion. The common people reacted to injustice through riots and revolution, as in, for example, the French Revolution. And so, because of the fear of revolution, draconian forms of control were gradually replaced by ideological mind manipulation, where the material force of profit became an intellectual force. Ideas such as everyone can be rich, or as we sociologists prefer to call it, the embourgeoisement thesis, took over as the mass media developed. Greed and desire became intellectualized as competition and survival of the fittest. The drive for home ownership, as in the sale of council houses, was accepted as a freedom for all to buy and sell for good profit. Just like monopoly. Maximum profit became rationalized as more is better, and ideas of success and hard work were enshrined, making everyone believe that they could achieve in a fair and meritocratic society. The non-achievers, or the losers, however, were labelled as lacking in attitude and motivation, and were therefore cast as inferior. This transformation from the ruling material force to the ruling intellectual force works at the conscious and subconscious level. Engels, Marx's friend and collaborator, began to develop ideology as a mechanism for this peaceful and non-violent transformation through what Marx called naturalization. Profit is made to appear natural and the truth, and has much to do with language and idioms such as time is money, movers and shakers, being your own boss, it's a win-win situation, and rags to riches. Though they appear common sense terms, they are in fact nothing but ideological. The naturalization of an ideology is achieved through what modern Marxists call the ideological state apparatus. They claim, though others would strongly disagree, that apparatus, or institutions as others would term, like education, the mass media, family and households, culture and identity, crime and deviance, religion, and the welfare system, are used by the ruling class to softly ensure the people have the correct idea, whether it's capitalism or communism. So, now you have some inkling of how I teach. I'd like you to look at the assessment objectives required by the A-level and IB examination boards. It'll hopefully give you a clear picture of the skills you need to achieve in order to get your best grade.